Yes, this 68 Charger right here was to be General Mayhem's replacement. Of course, when David bought this car, it didn't look like this, and he only briefly owned it. He owned it for about 30 days. Want to know the full story? We'll get into it now.
Jump in this thing and see what it'll do.
Ready to rock this, bro?
Oh, hell yeah.
What is up, everybody? Well, as I'm kind of cleaning up tools and everything from yesterday of yanking the motor out of my dirt modified, and the motor is exploded. The nothing salvageable except for the valve covers, the rocker arms, and the front accessories, like entirely junk. And walking into the garage, it finally hit me. You know, today is story day. I have a story for you guys, and it involves a 1968 Dodge Charger, General Mayhem, Dulcich, hillbillies, screaming ex-wives that want money. Not my ex-wife. I don't have a ex-wife. And an incredible trip that led me into meeting new friends and roadkill and all that. And that involves this car right here. Yep, that's the original tail panel off of General Mayhem when I restored the car back to what it is now from when it was Hellcat. So we un-Hellcated it, made it better, stronger than it was before. And the reason I have this, and the reason I even know Freiburger and Dulcich, and even kind of linked to Roadkill, been in a few episodes on Roadkill Garage, is because of this car right here. Yes, this 68 Charger right here was to be General Mayhem's replacement. Of course, when David bought this car, it didn't look like this, and he only briefly owned it. He owned it for about 30 days. Want to know the full story? We'll get into it now. This 1968 Dodge Charger, how you see it right now, is not what it looked like several years ago. And it involves how I met Freiburger and Dulcich, my introduction to kind of like the Roadkill family, I guess you could call it. Quite the story, I would think, in my own mind anyway. Let's see. Where should I start? Probably from the beginning on how I acquired this car. So, back in the Craigslist days, yes, Craigslist. We're talking when Craigslist was booming and was hot and had all kinds of good deals on cars and everything. So we're talking at least 10 years, right? Maybe, yeah, I'd say about 10 years ago now. This car was on Craigslist, although there was no picture. It just said, it was just a description. 1968 Dodge Charger, fresh 440, original 332 barrel, now 440 car, you know, in Southern Oregon. I think it was one of those Southern Oregon states, just right over California. I can't remember exactly which one it was. And $6,500. And, well, just for shits and giggles, I'm like, I emailed the guy. I'm like, hey, do you have any pictures of this car? Never heard nothing. No response, no nothing. 2 months later, like literally 2 months goes by. I need to find a spot to sit down. Just walking around is getting monotonous. But, see how deep these scallops are now? That deep. That's just some of the custom things I had done to this car by dropping the scallops. Anyways, so 2 months later, I get, I found a spot to park my butt. Yeah, so 2 months later, I get an email saying I don't have pictures, I can't get pictures, but promise the car is here and I'll sell it to you for, I think I offered him $6,000. And he's like, okay, I'll take the $6,000. So I drive from Las Vegas all the way to Southern Oregon to go get this car. I meet the guy, about 10 miles from where the car's at in this small town, and I follow him. Kind of a weird guy, you know, but I had my dad with me, and of course we were packing. And so we follow this guy up into the mountains, and we're going down these trails, you know, trees are hanging over both sides. It's kind of like, it's real pretty countryside, but it's pretty dense. And then we get to a fork in the road, and one side of the fork just continues on this path that we're on. The other side goes like what looks like 45 degrees up the side of this mountain, basically, this hill. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, and it looks like it just disappears. Like that fork in the road, it goes up and then just disappears. It just noses over, and I'm like, is there what's up there? Is all the cars up there? And I'm like, it doesn't look like there's anything up there. And then he tells me, hey, when we get up there, there might be a little hostility. And I'm like, hostility? What do you mean hostility? I was like, I just drove, I want to say it was 800 miles to get to this car. And we get within a quarter mile of the car, half mile of the car, and now he tells me there might be some hostility up there on the top of this hill. And anyway, his ex-wife is up there with her new boyfriend, and I guess all his friends live up there. And I'm like, I don't see houses, I don't see nothing. What is up there? He's all, well, it's like the side of this, you know, hill, and it kind of like levels out, and there's a couple mobile homes. And I'm like, all right, well, let's go check it out. I already drove this way. And so we're following the guy up this hill. We nose over, and literally all it is a shelf that looked like it was carved into the side of a mountain with just enough room for 2 mobile homes right on the edge of this cliff. And where they carved this shelf, the hill just kind of like went 45 degrees straight up from there. And as I'm looking, I can see a blue fender. And that blue fender belonged to this car. Which is the blue 1968 Charger that actually is this car here. And as me and my dad get out of the truck, this guy gets out of his Jeep, and we start walking towards the car. Here comes, you know, like 4 mountain men, and this woman, she's just screaming and yelling and running her mouth. You're not taking one more step towards that effing car. You owe me money, and just ranting and raving. And I'm just sitting here going, are you freaking kidding me? So I asked the guy, do you even own this car? What is going on here? He's like, yeah, that's my car, but you know, my wife says I owe her money, ex-wife says I owe her money, but dude, you didn't say any of this BS was going to be involved in this. And I mean, they're just ranting and raving, and I'm trying to sum this up. And so I look at the ex-wife, and I was like, can I talk to you? And so we go in the little mobile home there, and I'm talking to her, and I was like, obviously there's a dispute between you and your ex-husband. He's trying to sell the car. Obviously you're holding on to the car because of money. How much money does he owe you? And I think she said it was $2,200 or something like that. Yeah, I think it was $2,200 or $2,300. And then, so I look over at the ex-husband, I tell him, I'm still willing to pay $6,000 for this car, but that $2,300 is coming off your side of what I'm paying. He's like, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. And so we shook hands. I literally paid off the ex-wife right there. And then we walked, and then, well, of course, we looked at the car for, we actually, yeah, I couldn't even really go over to the car until I paid her. And then they agreed, you know, okay, you can take the car. So paid her her money, walked over to the car, and there's this huge like shrubbery bush on the passenger side of this car. And the car is backed up to that hillside. And then there's like a ditch carved out of the dirt in front of the car to where you could not move. They entrapped this car to where we couldn't move it. And then there was like an 80s cab over semi directly in front of it, in front of the ditch, next to the bush. The car was cornered, couldn't get it out. I'm looking at the semi and I'm like, this semi doesn't look like it's run in a very long time. I mean, we're talking those 80s like cab over looking flat nose semis. And I just asked the guy, does this semi runs, right? Yeah, it runs. And so I'm looking over at the car like, hey, I can find it. And I'm at the same time trying to figure out how the hell are we gonna get this thing out. So I asked the guy, I said, well, can we fire it up? And he's like, well, I need diesel. Okay, do you have diesel? No, I need to go get some diesel. I was like, all right, well, I can wait. He's like, well, I need money for diesel. Like, none of these guys had, 2 cents to rub together to buy diesel to move this semi. So I give the guy, I think it was $40. He goes and gets some diesel. He's gone for an hour, comes back, fills the thing up, and we spent, I want to say, an hour and a half, 2 hours trying to get this thing running. I mean, and this time it's already dark. And when we showed up, it was daylight. It was like afternoon. Now it's dark. We're trying to get this freaking semi running. And I don't know shit about diesels. They're just not my thing. I do know that there's no carburetor. There's no spark plugs at that time. Now, I'm more knowledgeable about diesels now. But we're trying to get this thing running, and he's going and grabbing starting fluid, WD-40, anything he can to spray down the intake tube. And all these cans that he's got, brake cleaner, WD-40, everything he's got that's anything that's flammable that we can spray into this motor to help it lug over and prime or try and get started. All these cans are ancient. I mean, it looks like these cans came right out of the 80s. We're having to poke holes in starting fluid and all this other stuff because there's not pressurized no more. And I'm asking him, are you sure this thing runs? I just freaking told you it runs not long ago, didn't I? You calling me a liar? And we've been trying to get this thing running for a while now. And anyway, the thing finally, I mean, just as like the batteries are going dead, and we've got jumper cables on it, we got my truck hooked up to it, we've been trying to get this thing running for a while. It finally goes, tug, and then smoke starts puffing out of the stacks, and I'm like, oh, finally! It finally ran, and he moved it out of the way. And then we had the next task, trying to get the car over the ditch that they had obviously carved in front of the car so the car could not leave. And we're grabbing 2x4s and anything we can to make a little bridge. And this was way before I did anything on YouTube. Some of my best picking up car stories was before YouTube. And we make a little bridge, and we're trying to get this car to move, and it will not move. I mean, we're pushing. We're airing up tires. I brought air tanks that we stopped and bought from Harbor Freight. We're filling up the air in the tire. All 4 wheels, I guess, were locked, and cannot move it. Well, then it starts. Now it's sprinkling. It's getting raining, and one of the guys has like a little Samurai, or not Samurai, but some Toyota SUV, whatever you want. I don't even know what they're called. He's got a winch on his little SUV, so we hook a winch to the car, and as soon as he starts hitting the winch, the car doesn't move at all. the little Toyota is moving towards the car. It's being pulled through the mud towards the car. So we had to X that idea. So then we hooked a winch from the car back to the Toyota, and then we hooked a strap to one of the mobile homes. So that way it was mobile home, strap, Toyota, winch, charger. And he hits the button. Instead of the charger being pulled forward, no, the mobile home starts moving. So we had to X that. So then we backed the semi back in front of the car, hooked to the Toyota, to the charger. Finally, the brakes, I guess, broke free and the car was rolling, and it pulled itself out of the little, of course the car had sunken into the dirt, so it pulled itself out of the humps, and then the car was rolling. We got it over the little bridge that we made, and finally was able to back my trailer. Oh, no, that's right, I forgot. So we moved the Toyota out of the way, and we got the semi, and we hooked it up to the charger. And he's running all 4 tracks on that semi, trying to dig it out of where it's at. And I'm like, this isn't happening. This is not going to happen tonight. And the tracks are just spinning on the semis, no traction. So then I hook my truck to the front of the semi, and then so my truck is pulling the semi, and the semi is pulling the charger, and then it broke loose. That's right. That's what happened. It's been a while. I forgot, but it finally clicked off. Anyway, finally got that charger loaded, got it to my dad's place, and this is the car sitting on the trailer in front of my dad's house. And of course, the car ran 10s. It had a race-built motor in it, which was nothing special. It was an 8-to-1 forged piston, 440 stock heads, tiny little cam, like 450 lift, but it ran 10s. Anyway, that was getting this car. So I get the car home. I pulled the motor and tranny meal because it's a 10-second motor, and I was just gonna put it in. I pulled the motor out so I could freshen it up, and I was gonna put it in something else, one of my other cars. And well, I found another charger, and I decided to sell that car. So I put it up on Craigslist, put it back on Craigslist, and I'm working for a buddy of mine for $10 an hour building cars, doing anything, painting, auto body, building custom cars. And I was making $10 an hour, living by myself, renting a house, barely could afford to pay the bills. The only reason I even made any headway is kind of flipping a few cars here and there to help pay the bills. Hell, at one point, I had to steal toilet paper. Yeah, that's how broke I was. Anyways, so car was on Craigslist. I'm at my buddy's shop, and I missed a phone call. And I answered. So I listened to the voicemail. Hi, this is David Freiburger with Hot Rod Magazine. I got some interest in your charger. Can you just give me a call back? And I'm like, wait, that's the General Mayhem guy. Because I didn't know what Roadkill was until the General Mayhem episode. I was on a forum group called dodgecharger.com, and someone had posted a link to it, say, hey, this is a really cool episode on YouTube. And I never really watched YouTube, so I watched that video, and then I got hooked. Roadkill was great. It was fun to watch. That was like one of the greatest shows ever. And well, then David calls me. The two link together. Hey, that's this guy. And so I call him back, and we strike a deal on this car. And David asked me, well, can you deliver it? And so, yeah, that'd be cool. So he gave me the address and everything, and so I drive. I'm on my way to Dulcich's house. My dad met me down in Bakersfield because my dad watched the show as well. So my dad met me in Bakersfield, and then from Bakersfield we went to Dulcich's place. And on the way to Dulcich's place, we're turning off the highway to where Dulcich lives, and I see the crop duster, the crop duster on the side of the highway. And I'm like, and I see David standing there. So I pull up behind him. I'm like, hey, David, what's up? I was like, I'm Chris Birdsong. I'm the one that was selling you this car. It's on the trailer right there. And so, we're bullshitting and talking, and he's looking at the looking the Charger over, and I'm looking at the crop duster, and, just car guy talking. And here comes Dulcich pulling up in the drag Durango, he calls it, that black Durango. And he always had dreams turned into a drag car. Anyways, pulls up, and this is the first time I'm seeing Dulcich in the flesh, and he looks like he does on the show, all raggedy, hair a mess, and he opens the hatch on the Durango and pulls out a gas can, and it's empty. And Freiburger had called Dulcich saying, hey, I need gas. Well, Dulcich showed up with an empty gas can. So me and David are just kind of standing there looking at Dulcich like, what? So anyway, Dulcich leaves, gets gas, comes back, fire up the crop duster, and I follow David to Dulcich's house. And, we unload the car, and I think that same day it was. So that same day they were actually filming an episode of Hot Rod Garage, which was still a new show at that time. I think it was only their third episode. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was only their third one, because they had the Cougar. I think they had that black truck, the D100 that they drove around with no front clip on it. And I think the crop duster was like the third episode. I'm not positive, and that was the episode where they were trying to make it faster. And so me and my dad, they let us sit and watch, off camera. Actually, I think you can, in that episode, I think you'll see my goofy ass kind of poke my head out around Dulcich's engine room to watch, and then the camera caught my head for a split second. And then I was like, oh, they're filming. So anyway, that was my introduction to Freiburger and Dulcich. And the reason Freiburger bought this car, which obviously he doesn't own it anymore because it's right here. The reason Freiburger bought the car is he sold General Mayhem to Motor Trend. I believe it was when they did the Hellcat swap and all that, which Freiburger hated it. And I thought they kind of ruined it too. I mean, the car was really cool when it was General Mayhem, the clapped together 440 Dukes of Hazzard, dirt road car. When they turned into a drag car with the Hellcat engine, and I thought they kind of killed it, because now it's only good at one thing, going in a straight line. The car sucked everywhere else, and then they butchered the car to convert it. They cut up the car pretty bad. Now, obviously, if you saw me rebuilding General Mayhem, that's when we undid all of the General Mayhem stuff and put it back to what the car is now that you see today. So this was the replacement. David sold General Mayhem for $10,000, which he's told everybody that. He sold the car to Motor Trend for 10 grand. Not a secret. So he had $10,000 burning a hole in his pocket, and he needed another Charger. So he bought this one. But, and I'll agree with David, the car did not have that cool look that General Mayhem had. It just, at first glance you see General Mayhem, it's like, pow, a cool, ratty muscle car. This one here, when it was blue, how I found it and how I sold it to David, it was just, pow, clapped out 68 Charger. It didn't have the pow factor. And so he bought it from me, but I think as I'm delivering it, he had kind of like buyer's remorse. And I want to say it was a month later. Again, scrolling through Craigslist, because this is before Marketplace, and I see the car back on Craigslist. And so I text David, and I was like, hey, I see the car's back on Craigslist. Are you not happy with it? Or, and he tells me, no, I don't. It needs too much work for me. Anyway, the quarter was smashed in. It had a little bit more rust, because General Mayhem was pretty rust free. The one I dropped off, it had lower quarter rust. It had a little bit of rust around the wheel lip. The trunk had some rust in it, but it wasn't like a clapped out rotted piece of crap. It just had your typical, let's just say Southern Oregon Charger rust. And Freiburgers allergic to rust. He is. So I just text him saying, hey, I'll buy the car back. And he's like, really? Yeah, I'll just buy it back. And so I did. Drove back down there, loaded it up. And, as I'm loading it up, we hang out again, and I'm bullshitting. I don't think Freiburger might have been there when I picked it up, but he might not have been. I don't remember. But anyway, I'm sitting there bullshitting with Dulcich, and we're talking Mopar, and and Dulcich obviously could tell I knew what the hell I was talking about, and I knew that Dulcich knew what he was talking about, and just kind of kicked it off from there. And Dulcich and I became friends. And he's always, hey, anytime you're in the area, stop by, because where Dulcich lives, Dulcich is pretty secluded. He's probably one of the very few remaining like muscle car guys in that area, like around him. It's not exactly Dulcich territory, I would think. The roads are great. That's a lot of playground area. And so yeah, ever since then, anytime I went to Merced, California, which is where my dad lived, my grandparents, and I went up and down there all the time from Vegas. And so pretty much every time I would go through there, I would just text Dulcich, hey, you home? And we'd stop, bullshit, hang out, go get lunch, whatever. And just that's how Dulcich and I became friends, is through this car. And that's how Freiburger and I became acquaintances, friends, was through this car. Now, at that time, I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have YouTube. And then another guy talked me into opening an Instagram account, which at that time I'm like, dude, that's for girls. That's for teeny boppers. I don't know. He's like, no, there's a lot of car guy stuff on there too. And I'm like, really? So then I opened up Instagram and I found David, and I don't even think Dulcich had an Instagram at that time. But anyways, that's how. And I started posting stuff about what I do and building Mopars and restoration and fab stuff, and started growing an audience on there. And then I started a YouTube channel. Anyways, I'm just trying to give you a storyline and background on this car. On how this car linked me to David, Dulcich, Roadkill, and just kind of grew from there. And you want to take a better look at the car? So this was a long-term project, and we were turning it into a resto mod kind of thing, where, like I showed you, I did deeper scallops on the doors. These are also deeper. It's some of those things that you wouldn't really notice offhand unless you parked this car next to a stock Charger. Then the deeper scallops is completely obvious, and it looks way more muscly and cool. I think it looks cool. I mean, would I do it to every car? No. But for a resto mod, yeah. I am right now in the middle of doing a 6-speed swap. So we got a T56 Magnum 6-speed that I'm putting in. So getting that all cut out, and so anyways, this has kind of been a long-term project car. I haven't really touched it in a long time. And it's got a 5.7 Hemi in it. Anyway, it's a neat car. Well, that's pretty much it for that. I just thought I'd give you guys a cool little background story on what most people probably didn't know, is that Charger that's in the garage, that red one you just saw, that was briefly General Mayhem's replacement. And then David got smart and he bought Mayhem back. See, but David didn't buy Mayhem back right away. It took some it took some convincing, you know, between texts back and forth and calling, and he, you know, he was, because they really butchered Mayhem bad, and he was afraid that if he bought it back, it's gonna need all that metal work, and he was wanting to know if he bought Mayhem back, would I tackle the car and bring Mayhem back to what it was, if not better? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that for you. And so then he proceeded to buy Mayhem back, and then those were those episodes. If you go back and look at some previous episodes, like old episodes, then you'll see that that was me reviving General Mayhem, bringing it back to David's personal car that he wanted. Here's Daisy. Yeah, I know, it's neglected. You'll see the 74 Charger doesn't have a fender on it. We are going to proceed to doing a few things to this car. Yeah, my cool homemade NASCAR spoiler. This car is fully caged, road race. I spent so much money on the tires on this car. Ooh, look at this. That's one of my favorite parts. Oh yeah. I'm an idiot. But I'm an idiot with cool cars. Yes. You didn't see that nose. That's not on there yet. You'll see that in a later episode. But anyways, I will holler at you guys later. Thanks for watching.